On the 15th of August 1995, a doctor named Stephen Ammerman was found dead in the shower room of Simpson's guest house. Ammerman, a former drug addict, was obsessed by Hollywood and looking for a way into the movie business. It was claimed that Ammerman had been acting as Simpson's personal physician and had been trying to help Simpson get off drugs.
Stephen Ammerman was a guy who has very much been entranced by Hollywood. He was a doctor. He was a pretty entrepreneurial, enterprising doctor who had started some businesses and done fairly well for himself, but he really wanted to make it in show business. He was even trying to make his own film with his own money.
Steve Ammerman, who first introduced me to Don Simpson, ostensibly coordinated Don's medical care. They were quite close. They were very good friends. Stephen Ammerman called me and asked me to go up to Don Simpson's house to speak with Don about finally, seriously getting him off drugs. When I went up there, Don was not having a good time and never came down to meet me. He could be a bit of a recluse, and he was in a reclusive mood that day and did not come down. So I spoke with Steve only. 2 to 3 days later, I get a call from the hospital. Steve is dead.
Stephen Ammerman's death from an overdose of drugs, which included Valium, cocaine and morphine, foreshadowed events to come. Even though some reports said that the scene had been sanitized, Simpson denied any knowledge of Ammerman's drug use.
His story was that Ammerman had asked if he could spend the night with his girlfriend, and that Don said fine and went to bed, and as he put it, that he woke up the next morning and found this blue body with a needle in it the next day. He claimed that he didn't know anything about Stephen Ammerman's drug habits. No one found that credible who knew Don.
The thing was, when Ammerman died and everybody read that Ammerman died at Simpson's, everybody laughed because people knew that there was no such thing as a doctor living at Simpson's getting him off drugs, because Simpson was he knew everything about the human mind. And there was no doctor that was going to be able to convince Don Simpson of doing anything. It was going to be the other way around, whether you liked it or not.
The incident passed without really doing lasting damage to Don in terms of a problem with law enforcement. But of course, from a public relations standpoint and probably from an emotional standpoint, it was a disaster for him. And he was painfully, painfully concerned that the town, as he referred to this Hollywood, would never believe that he wasn't somehow complicit. Jerry simply had to draw the line at that point. I mean, there was a corpse in Don's house, and that was a little bit hard for even the most devoted partner to take.
In December 1995, after 12 years of success together, Jerry Bruckheimer quietly dissolved their partnership.
I think both of them suffered enormously in this breakup. I mean, Don needed Jerry almost desperately, and to go out in the world without him, I can't imagine a more frightening thing for Don after all those years of success together. Really hard.
He was going to have to really be on his own and be responsible and not have Jerry to do certain things and not have a staff to do certain things. I think that scared him because he hadn't confronted that as a reality in a long time.
He said towards the end of his life at one point, when I warned him against the use of stimulant drugs, that he would have to do them in order to be able to perform and in order to be able to get his business back together now that he had split up with his associate.
I think Don internally begged for help to not do to himself what he did, but you can't turn around. So once you've been there, you can't turn around. Sometimes you're better off killing yourself on that stuff than getting off of it, because life will never be the same.
I called him. It was the last night of his life. And I had the feeling, which he often did late at night, that he was drinking a lot of red wine as we were talking, because there was an effect that wine used to have on him. He told me about the concerns that others had had for his problems. He said the idea of going into a 12-step program and surrendering and all that stuff, that's not for me. I can't do that. I don't need that. I can run my life and handle my life. I may go down, but I'm always going to come back up.
I've always been able to kind of teeter on the precipice, and a sense of whatever, self-survival, drive, desire, and desire is an interesting one. Something is a kind of celestial cord that pulls me back, that reels me back in. Death, if it's going to visit me, I hope it comes in the night and just strikes me down.
On the 19th of January 1996, Simpson's heart stopped. He had been a gifted outsider, a maverick who had fought his way to the very top. But in the end, Don Simpson died the sort of death all too familiar in Hollywood, making him a legend for all the wrong reasons.
I think that there's probably a revelatory experience awaiting everyone that has to do with finding out who and what you really are. And I think when that occurs, if it occurs, you reach nirvana-heaven. And the degree to which you don't reach that place of realization, you're in eternal hell.
Ever wanted to peek through someone's window? Well, now we're inviting you through the front door as we share the real day-to-day drama